going to begin the call. So I'm Shanti, everyone, and great that those of you here are able to be here, but also welcome to many of you who tune in later on through the YouTube video. If you haven't tuned in before, my name is Shailan, and myself and my mother, we are students at the London Centre in the UK. And these chit chats are aimed at going into the depth of that knowledge and gives us a chance to explore things and questions maybe we didn't ask elsewhere, we can ask here, and people can share their efforts. And we were just chatting a little bit before this recording began, and I'll just give some comments because I think there's a deeper intersection when Brahmins are working and they're wanting to do well in their work. They're then wanting to do well in Baba's effort. They're wanting to do well in Baba's service. And they've got some sort of personal project. And I think that is a particular set of challenges that we probably don't talk enough about as Brahmin. That is different to if you're living full-time in the center and then having challenge. So what I think occurs is, of course, we're dealing with attachments and egos wherever we are, whether you're in your family, whether you're on your own, whether you're in the center, we know that. But I'm intrigued mostly because of my journey and my role with the Brahmins who are balancing many plates, who are balancing many different areas. And you see many Brahmins who are very successful in their careers and they're focusing on their effort. And you see, there's one line of thought in Baba's knowledge that we should not be pursuing any of our own desire. And you can definitely have a clear narrative in the morally surrounding unlimited disinterest, that we should now not be trying to achieve anything, not in terms of education, career, or any personal projects. And because of that, if a Brahmin is doing any of that, there is a risk. And in that Brahmin's mind, there's a percentage of that risk weighing on them. And that creates internal emotional burden in that Brahmin to want to try even harder to make it right. So if it wasn't your own personal project or your own personal vision or your own personal career, you would be motivated. Because actually you're thinking that there isn't a risk in this. This is something that's being done elsewhere and collectively maybe. But where a Brahmin is actually pursuing their own vision, there is going to be, because of that risk, there is a greater attachment to the idea. Now, the thing about how our world works is it works on the basis of someone having a vision and willing to work hard to achieve it, together with someone who takes a risk. Otherwise, we as human beings don't do anything. And one of the criticisms of religion over the centuries has been some sort of suppression. And particularly like telling you, you've got to stay in your place. And that type of thing has been done like with racism, like putting people in there that don't have ambition, stay where you are, don't try. So we know that actually we gotta have that freedom to express and achieve and do things, because there'll always be things telling us don't do. But for the Brahmin, this creates, and I think it would be even for like the spiritual person in other religions as well. I don't think it's just for the Brahmin. But there will be a conflict because their teachings, especially if it's more like an ascetic, like a mystical type of tradition, then they're going down that non-ego, non-attachment type of philosophy. But yeah, in the Logic world, it would be the ego that achieves. The ego would drive the person. There's no champion without an ego. There's no great business person without the ego. So this is a very particular challenge that Brahmins who are playing multiple roles have to face. And I don't think we do talk about it. And so like what happens is that Brahmin is then just introspective. Oh, this is, I think I'm being tested, this is my attachment. But I think it's something deeper, something more complex. Where do we as Brahmins just accept that we shouldn't be trying to achieve it? Or do we as Brahmins try and achieve it? Now, over the last, I would say 30 years, I've seen more Brahmins even living in centers, taking more risks and doing their own projects. Certainly, Dada Ramesh was one of those, and he was always a little bit maverick within the whole Brahmin family. And I know that caused all sorts of tension when he carried on with his accountancy practice in Mumbai. He then became a college professor as well, and he was lecturing in law. And he was running the administration for the Yagya. And he was always doing multiple things, and he did interesting things. Where he set up the Spark department, which is looking at scientific connections with Baba's knowledge and things. And again, that was something which was not really thought of as things we should go into, maybe, and we shouldn't look out too much. But he was always trying to do something new. And in the 1960s, actually, he was having this continual debate with Brahma Baba about setting up Brahma Kumari's trust. There was no formal entity because Brahma Baba had felt that we shouldn't own any property. Like we're trustees and we're going, destruction will come and Bashir Baba will take us all back up. But Ramesh, for about 7 years, was lobbying Baba that we do need destruction and we should begin owning. They bought Pandit Bhavan in 1959, and that was the only building that was owned by Brahma Kumaris until it was 17th January 1969. The final act of Brahma Bhavan was to sign the purchase of the museum in Abu Village. So that was the second property purchased. It was the first outreach they were doing in Abu. And then the third property was Pandit Bhavan in Delhi. Maybe some of you have passed through there. It was, in older days, that was the place where we went to when we were going to Nagaland, to Delhi. I would still remember the address because you have to write it on your forms whenever you land in India. 25 New Rohtak Road. And we all went through that 20-hour train to Abu. That was the only way. And that was the purchase in 1972. So for a long, and that to purchase those three buildings, the entire Yanga, like every Brahmin had to contribute to purchase. So, and now you look how many buildings. So you have got to have that structure. So, and then I think of David Nirvana, and he was the person behind the Global Hospital projects. And he had a heart attack in 1987. I think he was about 45. He was about my age. And I remember him having a heart bypass. And it was after that experience, he was thinking more about that, because whenever you needed medical treatment, you're going all the way to Mumbai, basically. And rural Rajasthan just doesn't have much. So he's thinking along those lines. And I remember that there was a lot of opposition to this, because should Brahma Kumaran be getting into healthcare? Should we be doing anything? Is this really our purpose? And you can understand that, can't we? Think, is this really our purpose to do social work and medical work? And you can see how valuable all of that has been for the Brahmins, actually. Never mind everyone else. And so I think there's always going to be, so when we're doing something which is a bit different, there's a risk. And that risk, should we Brahmins be taking this risk, there's always going to be that question in our mind. And particularly if it's a personal project, then we'll also always have other Brahmins who think we shouldn't be doing. So there will always be doubters within the Brahmin family. And that will add to your own personal pressure that actually they think I shouldn't be doing it. And I should be more content, I should be more obedient, I should be more simple. And they've got a point as well. So, I think there's a complexity there behind all of that. So I can sympathize. Do you want to come back to Ambika?
But sometimes when you're in the middle of a project, and then the thoughts come, what do you do then? But, each day ideas will come and you do certain things. And sometimes you wonder yourself, where are they coming from? Whether it's coming from a past sanskar or a vision that a standard of golden age, all these things. And then you think whether or not it is too much, or is it that I have to have it at a particular standard, and to have it at a particular standard in this Kali age is sometimes a lot to put out. But sometimes when it's getting done, and it is being done with not too much obstacles, there are obstacles in it as well, but it is happening. It is happening. And you asking yourself, you're telling yourself, okay, if this isn't meant to be, then it wouldn't happen. It wouldn't happen. Yes, if you minimize, because there's always, as you say, a bit of not burden, because I don't see it as a burden, but a stress sometimes is involved. But the primary purpose is that at the back of my mind, whatever I'm doing is and I think I'm basically genuine in my thinking. I don't think I fool myself. I think I'm always honest with myself. The purpose behind it. And my thing is that if something is to happen, then it will happen. If not, it will not happen. My thought is always that whether it's too much or whether it's too little, because caught in wanting to have a balance of a particular standard. Because I do feel as Baba's children, any home, any center has to reflect a certain level of quality. It will be simple, but it should be of a certain standard, and basically that's it. My thought is, especially if you're in the middle of something and there's no way, because of investments, you've invested a lot of your time, resources in it. What do you do if you having doubts? Doubts in the sense that whether it was too much, whether it was too much. I personally don't think it is that, but there are days when you sit back and you reflect and you say, Baba, what is it? What is it you want from me? Where I am at this point, should it be more simple? Or should I have gotten into it? You know, my intention is really service. It is service. And whether it is my thinking, my ego saying service, or is it really Baba service? I really am honest with myself. My intention is that it's Baba service. The goal is for Baba service. Yeah.
So my advice would be that once we start something, we've got to complete it. And then for me, my checking is it dominating me? Anything that dominates me is wrong. Then I have lost my battle. So I'm always checking that, is it interfering with my freshness at Amrit Vela, my concentration at Amrit Vela, my clarity while I'm listening to the Morley? Because where something is dominating my emotions and thoughts, you struggle with that connection. You struggle with that concentration, and that's not good. Then something is bad. And then on a practical level, is it dominating a lot of my time and energy? I mean, sometimes everything's going to take time and energy, so of course I've got to give it. But if across a week, it's dominating too much, or across a month, it's dominating too much, then again, I might need to make adjustments. And my third checking point is resources. So I'm always very clear that I mustn't do projects where it completely uses all of my money and it uses everything and then stops me contributing. So I will always make sure that my contributions into the Yagya, they are ring-fenced. And so there I've got to, because I have a responsibility as a Brahmin to support Mariban and then our local center. And that much I must continue. And then whatever else, like you're saying, then we've got also quite a large gathering here. And there's always going to be something. Everyone who has a house knows there's always going to be something you're spending money on. And there are things where if we were not a BK, I would have got done quickly because I would have just put the money into that. But they are happening slower because I've ring-fenced money, because no project of mine should completely dominate my thoughts, my time and energy, or my wealth. So that's my check. Do you want to come back on anything?
Well, yeah, I do agree with you 100% where it is contribution towards the center. So that's something that I've never compromised with. Where it is even with service, you know, I because it really centers me doing service. When I go back into the center, maybe in the weekends mostly, and also where contribution is concerned, that I've never compromised. I have recognized some early, and it is not that I give with the intention of getting return. But whatever I've given, I know Baba multiplies that. You know, I have seen it and in so many ways. And I'll share a story that I remember when I first came, I realized the importance of contributing, not with the intention of getting in return, but I've seen it in practical ways more than once. And remember, just coming into Baba's knowledge, I may not have even been 3 months or so. I remember Daddy Janki was coming. And the sister who was in charge, I remember she saying, you know, the country that whoever senior is coming into, we take care of all the expenses, you know, with the tickets, everything. And she said, you know, whatever, if you can contribute, that will be fine. If not, that too is fine. And I remember in those days, my salary was really, really small. And actually, I will say at that time, my take home at the time after my deductions were like 800. And that's no kind of money. And I still had a rent to pay and all that. And, you know, I guess with your love for Baba so much, you know, Baba, as my Baba say, you know, remember the days of your childhood. And that centers me a lot. I just decided to give it to them. You know, I took all. I didn't think the intoxication was so much. And I gave it to them. And I said, you know, I'll go into there's a corporation that I would have been saving some money in. And this was actually this I had bought an apartment. So I'd used up all my money wherever I had investments and stuff. But I know I had a little bit that was still in there. So when I went in to ask them, because I need my expenses for this week now, the month, I asked the girl, what do I have in the account? And she said, which account? I said, well, I have only one. I would have closed off the other. She said, no, you didn't. You didn't close off. There's still some funds in there. And I said, how much money is in there? Now I gave 800, what I had. And then she came back and said, you have 8,000, you know? And I was so shocked because I have no idea that where that money came from, because I was not contributing into that account. So whatever it is, it built up. So I have seen, you know, and I was saying even in this project that I am in, my first contribution has always been for Baba's box. I will not spend anything until I give that contribution. And all it is much and it's consistent. And I have seen in my life. So I know I have plenty blessings, even with this project. It's a lot of blessings, a lot of cooperation in different areas. I have never had to struggle, you know, really struggle. I may not have abundance, but I always remember, and Baba was saying, and Daddy Janki, you know, what is prosperity? You know, and prosperity is really having what you need at the time of need, having sufficient. You do not have too much, you do not have to struggle for less. So, you know, I look at the project as in that way that it is going, and I look at also as an indication that this is probably, yes, when I start questioning, this is one of the thoughts that come. If it was difficult in that area, if I did not have the resources, it would not happen, you know, and that it is happening. You know, but it's just the thought you doing, and then, and it's not a question of I shouldn't have. It's just a question of issues that come up that you did not expect. And as you're saying, there's a risk. And the risk for me is not having a balance, not having the balance. I think at this current time that is the risk, and I have to keep you know, talking to myself what it is Baba wants from me.
Yeah, I think it sounds to me like you are doing the right thing, that you are checking. And when you judge your balance, it doesn't sound like it is dominating your brain and life at all. You are keeping that balance. And when we judge balance, I think we should do it over a period of a month or 3 months rather than daily. So there will be times in your life where you have got to give a certain thing a lot of attention. So it's more like waves that come. You might fall ill. So then for some weeks, you've got to give your body more attention. Then something happens within the family, and then you're giving that relationship a lot of attention. Then something happens at work if you're working, and then you've got to give that attention. So my experience is balance does not mean everything is equally charged and we're giving everything equal attention. My experience is that waves come and you've got to give particular attention to a particular thing at a particular time. But what shouldn't happen is over a period of many months, that one thing is dominant. So I feel that my perception of balance has changed over the years. And I think that we shouldn't judge ourselves just by one day or 1 week even, but having a look at maybe even a year and having a look to see, did I keep my balance over that year? But on a day-to-day basis, it's really about I'm morally. That's what we've got to be doing. Yeah, interesting. Thanks very much, sister. Thanks for starting this up. Would anyone else like to come in with any questions or comments?
Shanti. I'm listening to the whole conversation and everything, and I believe it's expectations that's caused a lot of problems. How I see life is that we came into this world, we're travelers, we're going through this journey in this body, and we'll leave, we'll come back and on another journey. But if we live life knowing that we're here on a journey, it gives you a whole new perspective in life. It's you're a guest, you're a traveler, you own nothing. Whatever you have, it's just a gift in life, and use it as much as you could for service to serve others, and then move on, because eventually, and in no time at all, we leave and we leave everything behind. So it's to do good, not create any disturbances, and just move on. We have enough to live, and be happy. Just be happy and have others around us happy. And that's my way of living, which I think it's, you have problems. Problems will come, but never let it overwhelm you. And it always goes away. Because circumstances always, it's changing. Nothing stays stagnant. Change is always constant. And there will always be something that will affect you. But we just understand this is drama. This is a part of life, and we just move on. So this is how I see life, and I take no worries on. And I'm always never stressed out. Shanti.
Thanks for sharing. Good advice. And Bev has been talking to us a lot about spinning the cycle and knowing ourselves, knowing Baba, knowing that these births are rotating around us. Change is always happening. We're never in one place constantly. And so just to sit in eternity gives us that stability and certainty. And I think Ranjan Ben's chosen a morally today on spinning the cycle of self-realization. So we'll talk more about that. Thank you. Would anyone else like to come in with any comments or questions? Okay, so shall we hear the morally? And then as we hear the morally, we'll get more ideas. And then we can have some reflections after the morally. I'll hand over to you.
Om Shanti. Good morning to all.
Shanti. Good morning.
This is the Murli of
21st November 1984. And I was just looking, and then I thought, well, it's, Baba has explained nicely about Sodashan Chakra, but it's a short movie. So I'll start. Today, Bapdada is seeing his children, the world famous holder of the cycle of self-realization, who are the embodiment of power that grant divine vision. So Baba is pointing out that we are so famous, Swadashan Chakra, the Discus is quite famous. And then Baba is looking at us and saying that we are, the children are the embodiment of the power that grants divine vision. Those who are the holders of the cycle of self-realization become the ones who grant visions to the world. If there is no self-realization, then there are no divine visions either. Those who remain stable in the state of self-realization will, while moving around in their nature form, through their divine thought, divine drishti, divine words, and divine actions, give the experience of being divine images to innumerable souls. And this is what when I read this, I was just looking at Murlis, and I thought, well, I think I am in my self-realization. But actually, Baba explained further that both real self-realization, holder of the discus and giving divine visions is. And about Brahma Baba, even Mamma, and Brahma Baba, whenever people had lots of divine visions, because Baba was always connected to Baba in serving the world subtly through divine drishti, divine words, and divine action. And this is what our natural form should be. Baba used the word natural form today. So while even moving around, and Dadi Janki, as she progressed, you can see her, how she was so good in churning knowledge topic. And you can always see, and some here also in the class is to say, Dadi, you can feel your cycle moving so fast inside. You remember? Yeah. And so, and this is how people get the divine visions as well. So even in Australia, one sister who moved from England, Nottingham to Australia, and she came specially to visit, and she said, it's because of Daddy from here, I can feel. And so she was pulled to come back and visit again. So that powerful, Baba says, our vision, everything should be. Baba says, ordinariness will not be seen. Only divinity will be seen. At the present time, Brahmins give the experience of their divinity to other souls. You will become deities in the future, but now you are to become the embodiment of divinity, divyata, divinities. We had a Murli month ago, I think, on a Sunday, Murli, there were divinities. And there's a nice Murli, we'll revise that again sometime. So the image of divinity becomes the deity image, so present image. then we create our future deity. So present should be full of divinity. But like Baba said, in Drishti, our thoughts, actions, words. So Baba says the image of divinity becomes the deity image. The angel is the image of divinity. The power of divinity finishes ordinariness. So that's the power of divinity finishes ordinariness. As much as one acquires the power of divinity through each action, to that extent will it emerge automatically in the minds and through the words of everyone that this one is the image of divine vision. Sakshatkar Murat, divine vision. That vision, which is intensely desired by innumerable Bhagat devotees, you yourselves be revealed as the image of divine vision in front of souls who have an intense desire for such a vision. Only then, on seeing the vision, will all souls be pleased, and then, because of that pleasure, they will shower the flowers of praise on you souls who are the images of divine vision. That's why in Bhakti, in the path of devotion, there's so much praise, so much singing. In every Bhakti, every devotee will sing the praise of their divine special deities. These are the words of pleasure that will be expressed by every soul. The thirst or hope of innumerable birth, that we have liberation or that we may have a mere glimpse of a vision. That thought for liberation or eternal liberation has been fulfilled today. Instead of the vision, we have met the image of vision. We have found our favorite deity. In the intoxication and happiness of this transitory achievement, they will forget their pain and sorrow of innumerable birth. This powerful stage of a short period of time enables souls to receive power in proportion to their love in the form of fruits which will even liberate them from some sins, and which is also why those souls will, to the same extent, experience lightness in themselves. So this confluence age is a short age, and this is what Baba said. If we make our stage in this short age, our devotees will benefit so much. This is also why their prayers, they sing, O destroyer of our sin, or O goddess, O Shakti, destroyer of sin, or O mother of the world, Jagdamba, mother of the world. Whenever they go to any deity, they have this hope or faith that their sins will be destroyed by them. And now at the end, together with the deity, the gurus also tempt them by saying, I will destroy all your sins. It is also on the basis of this faith that Bhagats take gurus. But this, in fact, is the memorial that has continued from the time when you, the soul throughout the embodiment of divine vision become apparent. Now that the moment has almost been reached and will come very quickly, when these divine visions will appear in front of the world. Now look at yourself and check, have I become such an image of divine visions? Have I become worthy of giving visions? Complete with all decoration. You know, in Vishnu, they show our four ornaments. You remember? That it's good to remember in each hand, but I think it's in the left of Vishnu is the conch shell, and then common fruit.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the right hand, isn't
Yeah.
it?
You start here. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yoga.
yoga is mace, and then conch shell.
Common food. Dharana.
Oh, oh.
And then conscience. So
Conch shell.
yeah, yoga. Dharana.
Conch shell is dharana, and the common is like that. Conch shell is you blow. It's not long.
Jnana Yoga Dharma Seva. So the conscious Seva.
But you have another mistake, because you have to blow. Even even now when they worship, they have all the ingredients like for worshipping. They always have a conch shell. I mean, most of you probably know the bhakti. They always have water, but conch shell they blow even nowadays also in the temples there. So it's on the hand of Kamal. Kamal Asan is down, means it's the lotus like Kamal is a lotus flower, but it's down, it's like a dharana. It's for
Good.
purity, symbol of purity. So it's the dharana.
And the conch shell they blow at the beginning of the
Blow, yeah.
battlefield.
To
So
make a whole world, they make such a noise.
traditionally, the armies would be on the battlefield and they sleep at night time. And then they start in the morning and they fight until the evening. So the conch shell will blow in the morning, starting the battle. And then in the evening, ending the battle. So Baba says you are battling with ideas. So you're not fighting, but the gods and goddesses, they're all shown as warriors. And this is because you are challenging the ideas of Bhakti. So this is the battle of ideas. That's why the conch shell is the symbol of the servant. So this is the decoration. So it's translated as decoration, but as Ranjan Ben said, it's mainly ornaments. That's what it means.
So Baba is saying, now look at yourself and check. Have I become such an image of divine visions? Have I become worthy of giving visions, complete with all decorations? Like the Father, are you stable in being the embodiment of destroyer of sins? You will only become the destroyer of sin, that is the remover of sins, when you become the embodiment of the fire of remembrance. So it's like a Jwalamukhi remembrance, like a volcanic. Have you become this in order to have a vision that draw the curtain? And when the curtain is drawn, the vision is seen. Have you become such complete images of vision that when the curtain is drawn, that it is just being heard becomes practical? Or is it that the decoration of the image of divine visions is still being completed? It's missing something. They are refreshed, Adeno. This is also a good blessing. By applying the blessing in activities, I think There's some, this is upside down book. I think they're missing some pages.
I just carry on from there.
No, being completed. It is always the vision of complete form that is seen. So are you ready in this way? Or is it that you still have to become so? It's like when we go to see play in a theater, the curtains are drawn until the actors are ready, completely ready. And Baba is giving us that this will be the scene at the end. We all will come on the stage with Baba when we are complete. And this is what Baba is asking, are you ready? So he can open the curtains and show our images, show us complete in our form. Or is it that you still have to become so? Or are you thinking, I will be ready at the time? If you are going to be ready at the time, will you still be preparing, or will you have become the image of visions? So Baba is drawing our attention that check so subtly and carefully and prepare yourself. Be ready before time of revelation. Baba will reveal us, we will reveal Baba. In which case, you will become so for the self and not for the world. This is being a benefactor for the self and not a world benefactor. The title at the end is world benefactor. So before that, we have to become our own benefactor, to complete ourselves, perfect and every way, like Baba said. Then at the title at the end is world benefactor. No benefactor for self. Only after you have become benefactors of the self will you then become world benefactors. Those who fulfill this double task will have the double crown. Those who are just benefactors for the self cannot become double crowned. They will be able to enter the kingdom, but will not have the right to rule. So it's up to us which status we want, what position. And so now, according to the time, intensify your speed of effort. The speed of time is now intense. Now increase the power of remembrance with intense speed. Now, because the form of the power of remembrance is ordinary, you can at any time, because of the influence of circumstances, be deceived. So if we still have ordinary sanskars, ordinary behavior, then Baba said, you are deceiving yourself, can be deceived. This is why, if you remain in the furnace of powerful remembrance, bhakti means furnace of powerful remembrance, you will remain safe. Go beyond the complications of service. Then in inverted comma, it says what, why, you, me, mine, yours, enter service. Then there are complications in service, and so go beyond those complications. In doing service, do not forget your own self-respect. I believe there was an obvious signal about this yesterday or today, about my students, my service. So Baba is pointing out that go beyond that. Go beyond those complications. In doing service, do not forget your own self-respect. Where any service is done without powerful remembrance, their service will not be so successful. And there will be further complications for the self as well as for others. Do not do service in name, but do that which is of use, that which is called completely power-filled, FILLED, filled, power-filled service. The Baba says, do not do service in name, but do that which is of use, that which is called completely power-filled service. Such a critical time is to come in which the power of remembrance will become the means of safety. Just as at the present time in a gross form, the military has become the means of safety. In the same way, the power of remembrance will become the means of safety, like an armor all around you. So it's like having good thoughts and Baba's remembrance, Baba's relationship with you. You draw your own parameters. Have with your thoughts, you will have that saras, like armor. You are wearing a safety armor. And so, and Baba often says, have the dhal of Brahma, shield of Brahma, Baba's, that's why Swadharshana Chakravartin quotes, all that is our safety. Those are our weapons to remain safe in a battle. And so I read this again. Such a critical time is to come in which the power of remembrance will become the means of safety. Just as at the present time, in a gross form, the military has become the means to safety. In the same way, the power of remembrance will become the means of safety, like an armor all around you. This is why bring the self, the place of service, or home, and all the students who come to the service centers into the attitude and atmosphere of the embodiment of the power of remembrance. This is why Bap Dada is in advance indicating to all children to create an atmosphere of powerful remembrance in which you yourself will be safe and you will also be able to give the cooperation of your own peace and power to Brahmin souls as well as to innumerable non-Jnani souls. Acha, to all such souls who are the holders of the cycle of self-realization, to the images of divinity, those who are completely fulfilled the hopes of all, who by becoming master destroyers of sin, remove the sins of all, who are the deities of peace and power. To all such souls, Bap Dadas, completely power-filled love, remembrance, and namaste. And we say namaste to Bap Dada. Om Shanti.
Share something. Would anyone like to begin by sharing their reflections?
Shanti, I think today's this Murli was so appropriate to the discussion we had today. Baba is stressing that become world benefactor, become self-benefactor before you could become a world benefactor, and how important it is to just stay in his remembrance, and everything will be solved. We would have no problems. So with the discussions we had today, this Murli is just really, really light it's a life teaching lesson today. Shanti, it's just a beautiful Murli. Thank you.
Thank you, Om Shanti.
Shanti, just as when Pen was reflecting, it's the same thing I was thinking, to be a self-benefactor, because that's how we can give. You know, if I am empty, how do I give? And really, it is critical that you, at this point, because there's more and more time will become more and more critical, so that I need to have the power to be able, you know, to give at the time when it is needed. And as Baba is saying, where critical time is concerned, it is the power, Baba's power of remembrance is what will take us through, because I guess at those times is where we will get touchings to do what is necessary as well. So that, you know, Baba often tells us to, you know, this thing of a 1 second, to be able to connect with Baba with 1 second, and how important it is really to be reminded of that, to practice this, you know, going up within 1 second. When Baba had told us, you know, when he came in Daddy Gulsa Bapdada, the way of meeting will change, because he told us that before. And it was really now realizing where we have to meet with Bapdada is really in the subtle region, and why it is so important, really, for me to be able to remember this over and over, what I need to do to face with what is to come. And sometimes, you know, listening to this, Murli, you go through certain things, and you tend to think it's but you realize that it is really minor thing, little things. You know, the bigger picture is going to be so much more important to have to focus on. The little things, yes, the little stuff, we need to deal with it, otherwise it can fester. But really, it is nothing compared to what is needed for the future. And Bob is saying, even in the book message, again, reminding us about the time is short. You know, we do not have as much time. Bob has been saying that for years, but I guess it is in the context of the entire cycle. It is short, but now the urgency of time and what is needed. So this filling the self, being a self-benefactor, is really a critical thing at this time, you know, so that you're able to go beyond whatever little situation. You see it as little, you see it as the drama. You look at Confluence Age and recognize that what I need to do at this time for my future. Do I want to carry those things into the future? Or leave, not carry it into the future, but to leave this drama with unfinished business, because there are little issues that are still there. So, you know, there's a lot to be grateful for, and to remind ourselves on a daily basis of who I am, who am I? And when I understand that I am not an ordinary soul, I am a deity soul, yes, but who am I at this point? I am Baba's child. And that awareness that, you know, you're not alone. You know, Baba is always with you. Shanti.
Shanti, thank you. Would anyone else like to share? Okay, I'll share a few thoughts then. So I'll show first of all, Ranjan, then the picture that I posted yesterday. As you see. Can you see this? I don't know if you can do it. I liked that picture of, I was saying earlier in the week about this practice of the finger in the middle, the point in the middle. And then this picture conveys that. It's like a more meditative depiction of this. And then Ajahn Ben chose this morally today, which I think is totally appropriate for this week. And what we're learning from Baba is what is Raj Yoga and how is Raj Yoga different to Bhakti type of remembrance. So first element is getting to know Shiv Baba as he is and what he is. Because of course, many devotees remember Shiva. Many devotees remember God in different ways. And you couldn't really say that they have less love or less commitment. They're probably devotees who remember more than we do. But Baba says that you've got to know me as I am, what I am, and then remember me in that form. And then the second element of Raj Yoga is considering yourself to be a soul, and then remember Shiv Baba. And what occurs in Bhakti is we tend to degrade ourselves and then remember God. Or we're in a human type of consciousness. So we're like remembering him for a selfish reason, or it's some sort of ordinary within the self. And then remembering God or praying to God. But what Baba teaches us is you have to be in your self-respect and then remember. And when you have these two things, knowing yourself as you are, what you are, knowing me as I am, what I am, then that connection becomes Raj Yoga, the king of all the yogas. And it has the capacity to give you the attainment of all of the different spiritual practices in the world. You can get it all in this stuff. This is why this is the king of all the yoga. And in the bold message from Shanti Bhavan, we had a change of trance messenger this week because usually Sister Shakti, who lives there, she offers the board. But Sister Surinder is the deity of Benares, and many of you will know that Benares is the holy city. I mean, there are a few, but this is the one where Baba talks of the temple of Kashi, where all of those, like the city of Shiva, basically. So this is where the college to train the sannyasis is. It's the holy hub. It's like the Jerusalem of Hinduism. And Baba put this sister as the deity of that place. So we can understand what her virtues must be. And I've heard her share her experiences before, that she was about 20 years old when Baba sent her. She came to Baba in 1958. And she was asked to set up the center there with another sister. And Brahma Baba would write instructions and they had to write back. And we hear that in the Moralies, that you got to write to Baba, Baba then writes back. And so Baba would write to them and say, go to such and such a guru and go and share some of Baba's knowledge with this guru. And they would go to this guru and Baba would write in the letter, whatever they say, you have to be peaceful, you have to be sweet, and you must not react to anything that they say. So she would go to these gurus, and the gurus would just tell them, this is a load of rubbish. There's nothing in the scriptures supporting anything that's done. You're just making all these things up. Please leave. And then they would write back to Brahma Baba, and Brahma Baba would write back, go back again next week, remain peaceful, remain sweet, and then that guru would get even more annoyed and send her away again, and they would write back to Brahma Baba, You must remain peaceful. Doesn't matter what. So about the third and fourth time, the guru has said, right, call them in. Let me talk to them and sit them down. And she said the gurus would say, okay, we got the message now. In fact, you are the guru. Because I've got angry at you 4 times and you've not got angry once. There must be something. But let me listen. And they built this network among the gurus in Benares, where now many of them, they just come like out of friendliness and out of cooperation. So this sister has this quality to be able to, like Baba says in the morning, the gurus will bow to the Kumaris. It's written in the scriptures. So this is the Kumar. This is one of the main ones where they now just have such a friendly connection. And this is the place where Shiv Baba is worshipped. This is the city of Shiva. So it was a great privilege actually to have that sister offer the Lord on behalf of all of us. And she was explaining that she's bought a brief for a retreat. And what was Baba saying to them? He was saying that, well, of course, Baba's talking to all of us. And he's saying, time is short, so ordinary effort just won't work. You won't get there. You are going to have to make special effort, particularly in yoga. And this whole week, it's all been about yoga. Last Sunday's Murali Baba was telling us you have awareness and then you lose awareness. You have remembrance and you forget it. And this game continues. But there are very few Brahmins who are absorbed in experiences of yoga. And in these messages on Thursday, they're all giving us that same message, really, that you have to be absorbed in this yoga. And Baba was saying in that message from Shanti Baba, that when you go into a furnace, the gold is separated from the alloy. And so this experience of Swadarshan Chakravarti that we just heard in the Murali was very, very powerful. So this Murali, a couple of you have just joined a little late. We were just reading the Murali. Was it 21st November 84? 21st November 84, we can revisit that Murali. And it really gives us a very, very powerful definition of where our spinning of self-realization has to go to. Now, since this Murali, Baba Hills clarified it even more, that spinning the cycle, so yes, I, the soul, I am a permanent, eternal soul, and my 84 births are spinning around me. But in particular, Baba has given us 5 forms to identify with more powerfully. The incorporeal soul, the pure soul with Rudra Shiva and the soul. I am a karmatit soul. Then secondly, I am a deity soul, a worship-worthy soul in the sense of soul and body, both being pure. I'm master of the world, a golden image soul. Then thirdly, the worship-worthy in the sense of the temple, the worship-worthy goddess, the worship-worthy God. Fourthly, the godly student role. Now, that I am someone studying with God, understanding knowledge, and practicing my yoga. This week, Baba said to us, a worthy child is someone making effort for constant remembrance. It's the effort makes that he loves. And then fifth, the complete angelic form, that like fairy light, being of light. So what this Murali is conveying to us is how powerful are you experiencing these 5 forms? How powerful are these 5 identities of divinity? So that you are feeling this separation between your ordinary self and this divine self. Because this is what a bhakti does, a furnace, a kiln. This is what it does. It separates the gold, the divine, from the ordinary, the iron and the copper alloy that we have. And what Baba is saying is, when we look at Brahma Baba, Mama Ranjaba was mentioning Devi Janki, that souls began to have experiences of them from a distance, in people's dreams. Many of the Devis came through dreams, and Brahma Baba and Krishna appeared in their dream. And like Ranjan Ben was saying, that sister in Australia, she had a dream of Devi Janki. And that's how she became a bhikkhari. So what happens is these souls, they practice their discus so powerful. So Devi Janki's 3 questions are perfect, aren't they? She said she used to ask herself 100 times each day, who am I? Who do I belong to? What do I have? This was her effort for many years. So this is spinning the distance and recentering ourselves again and again, making it powerful. So Baba is saying you're going to have to create a fire. And today Brahma Baba was sharing in the morning that we've got to remember Shiv Baba and get so absorbed we forget ourselves. So Brahma Baba was sharing his own experience. And what that means is, of course, that these bodily self, the past of the body, identities, the roles and everything. And this has been the message of this week. I was saying, get absorbed in it. And in one of the other messages from Jaipur on Thursday, Baba was saying that he looks at us and we keep saying to him, Baba, help me with this problem. Help me with this problem. And Baba is saying, if you just get absorbed in yoga, there are no problems. And if you just get busy in this, then your mind is not then thinking about other things. Because actually your own mind creates the problem. These are just scenes in drama. As Lynette Ben said, they come and go. Clouds are going to come and they're going to pass. The Buddha is saying you're engaging with them, and this is why they stay. But if you stay in yoga, then you're not internalizing. And Buddha is saying that this is nothing. Like we all know climate change is happening, right? We can see in the news. It doesn't take long. Like I think 15 months now, there's been a Ukraine war. And there was nothing before, and suddenly people are homeless. Suddenly there's a war. Suddenly you're a refugee. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take long. Suddenly some natural calamity comes.
Like Italy,
Sudan, like just suddenly. Sudan was very peaceful for quite some years, and then suddenly doesn't take much time at all. So that is saying, well, this is going to be your method of protection. It's going to be yoga. Because as climate change occurs, like you hear this every year, like places like North America, Canada, and America, they can get very cold. And you hear this every year, that the emergency services are saying, stay at home, don't drive anywhere because we won't get to you. They can't get, it's no good having the support. They can't get to. So Baba is saying to us, look, you know what's going to happen. The climate change is happening. The planet is changing. It doesn't matter if we've got hospitals, you won't get them. It doesn't matter if we've got emergencies, they won't get to you. Your protection is going to be your yoga. And this is why you've got to practice when times are good. It's not that you can begin practicing when the problem comes. You got to practice now. You've got to be firm now. And this is why it's got to be over a period of time. This is why Baba says time is short, because you have to do this over a long period of time to be able to master it for when the times are bad. And things can happen suddenly, so you don't know It's like, so this is why that is saying, make the most of each day, build your chart. And Brahma Baba had these visions from Shiv Baba of being Vishnu and Krishna. And initially it confused him. And then bit by bit, he began to identify. And he began to spin his cycle. Shiv Baba began explaining, you were this. This was Brahma Baba's first vision, was Vishnu saying to him, you are me, I am you. Now he is a worshipper of Vishnu since childhood. And so he thinks the vision is like as a devotee, right? This is like the fruit of his, so as a devotee, he's receiving this vision. And then his God is saying, I am you, you are me. What is that? That's very confusing. And then bit by bit, he understood through Shiv Baba's knowledge that it's Vishnu to Brahma, Brahma to Vishnu. And so he's learned, oh, this is me. I was there. And that identification became very powerful. So then the subtle vibration of this identification spread. And all of these daddies and dadas, they began having visions. Lady Janki used to say she was walking in the park in Hyderabad with her father. Her father was also a jeweler, and Brahma Baba was also a jeweler. And as she was walking in the park, she knew him as Dada Lekha. She saw Dada walking, and at a distance, she had a vision of Vishnu. And she knew this awareness had begun. It was becoming so powerful. This is what Baba is saying to us, that at the moment, people are seeing you, they just see you as ordinary. They might see you as, oh, you're practicing some spiritual thing, but they don't feel your divinity. But this is to do with your power of your with Mama's mother came to knowledge first. She was one of the very first, like Aditi Manmohini and Devi Prakashmani, Diwali 1936. And then Mama was studying in Mumbai, and she came back to Hyderabad for the Christmas vacation. And then she met Baba about December 1936. And Baba gave her 24 hours. He said, are you going to become Lakshmi? You decide. And he recognized something in her, of course. And then she had to think. And she came back to Baba and said, yes, I'm going to become. And within 2 years, people were calling her Mama. She began to realize who she is. She is the world mother. So it was actually Brahma Baba's eldest daughter. Her name is Daddy Nirmal Shankar. Later on, she became the Daddy of Calcutta. But she was older. She was about 28, 30 years old, and Mama was 17. But after 2 years, Mama had developed this awareness and this being about her. So Daddy Nirmal Shankar began calling her Mama. Her name was Om Radhe, and her own mother is also a BK, but she began calling Om Radhe Mama, and then everyone else began following and calling Mama. And then Janki came into the yagi in about 1938, and when they said, oh, you got to go and meet Mama, she thought she would be meeting Brahma Baba's wife. For sure. And then it was actually this girl who was younger than her. But it was this awareness. Who am I? And it emerged something that this is Lakshmi. And the daddies would say, she was really like a goddess. You could really feel these 8 powers. And this is what Baba is saying to us, that if you practice, then others will begin to feel your divinity. And then there was another addition which was very powerful in this month. Baba was saying that this experience of your divinity can actually destroy some of the sin in another soul. Now, this is completely mind-blowing, because actually only Shiv Baba has this power to destroy sins, and we know we've got to remember Shiv Baba. No good remembering anyone else. But Baba is saying that the power of your divine form can actually lighten the burden in other souls as they experience this divinity. Now, this is a very big thing. And it reminded me of a scene. This would have been 1994, 1995, and a group of us young brothers, I would have been 17, something like that, 18 years old at the time. And Devi Janki had invited us to come and meet her at the Global Retreat Center, which is just south of the city of Oxford. And we were just like in a small group sitting around Devi having a chit chat. And the Sunday Morally at that time had referred to something it's a very powerful title of God in Hinduism, Bhakateshwar, the one who cuts away your sins. And Baba had used this term for the 8 jewels. And he had said that those who become part of the 8 jewels, they become master Bhakateshwar. They become ones who can forgive the sins of others. So I remember asking Devi Janki, how is this even possible? How could a person like we, as Baba's children, even if they're part of the 8 jewels, they're not Shabbat, how could they do this? And we all knew that Devi Janki was going to become one of those 8 jewels. But I don't think she had thought about it before I asked her. So she went into a few minutes, just moments of silence, when she was going into some depth of thinking and asking herself. And then she answered that it's like when you reach a level of equality with God and you're so pure inside, your good wishes can actually act as a forgiveness of other sin. I thought that was very powerful. So it's not that they have the power to like cut away, like Shiv Baba can cut away sin, but it's like the feelings of mercy, the feelings of compassion, because the soul is like vibrating. It's like and frequency is on the same level as Shiv Baba. The good wishes work in a very powerful way. So to hear Baba say this to all of us in this morning was very, very powerful. That you can reach such a stage in where you're unlocking your own divinity, that your good wishes for these souls can actually act as this forgiveness. So I'll stop there, and I think there's a lot for us all to practice and realize the importance and the power within spinning the sun. And we've got to make this awareness so powerful. We become so busy in this during the day that we forget the old self completely, the old awarenesses completely, and we continue to connect with Baba more and more powerfully. Once I can remember the scene, and I've watched it again in the videos, that Dada says to the whole gathering, and he says even to all the Devis, that you can feel there's a difference in the atmosphere when Dada comes or when these senior daddies come. And the difference is just in the fire of yoga. Their yoga is like volcanic. And this is why you can feel the atmosphere change. And this is what you all got to do. You've got to really commit to your yoga so that you can influence the atmosphere. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to come in because there's another movie about that, and Baba mentioned that Murli, reading the Murli is the main tool or basis of accumulating pure thoughts in your mind, so that more you have pure thoughts, maybe journey, maybe point, it will remove the waste and impurity. And this is why the Baba thinks of us as himself equal to himself, means we are master, Prapta Vishwa, means we can also, Baba looks at us with so much high vision that we can also do it, we can be one. And so this is why Baba says it's important, Amrit Vela, and newly regular and just journeying pure thoughts. And while working, walking in between, like this 5 exercises drill, what Baba calls drill, or 5 forms. And they are like, Baba gave an example in one movie that if someone is weak, needs more vitamins and things, they are advised to have it every 2 hours, or those who need more nourishment are fed every 2 hours. In the same way, when you drink water, or you just every now and again, you just find a minute or something and practice being, nirakari, like bodiless, the point, and then this white form is like having vitamins in it. So Baba gave all those examples, and so to help your thoughts first is important, and this churn so that you can explain to others. And if you cut Maya's head off, not nobody, we are non-violent, but this way all the impurities are cut away, removed. And in Bhagavad, in that they have an example of that Krishna used the Swadashan Chakra to cut away the head of Shishupal, of a devil who was abusing him and terrorizing and harassing people. And he was, so Krishna gave him, this is a told story, it's a Bhagavad story, but they gave him a warning that I won't harm you, I won't use my chakra to cut your head off. After you're given abusive words and said abusive words to me 99 times, and then 100 times you say, I'm going to chop your head. Now we are non-violent, but what it means, then Baba explained that you tell this story in the scriptures, but what Baba means by that is Baba never looks at the defects of the children, although he knows they have so many defects. And in one movie, Baba said, no matter, even someone comes in front of you, he's like a real Ravan, really, but you just give them good wishes and help. So Baba also, we had so many defects and still have. Baba never criticizes or never looks at the defects. If Baba has to teach the child, Baba would first praise the child, point out the speciality of the child, and then Baba will point out what you can do, but to remove this. And so in the scriptures, they have given the violence that is used for violence, but no, it's our memorial that you don't use the Swadashan self-realization for cursing or for chopping anybody's head like that. But if we have pure thoughts, we can remove their impurity, their defects. At the same time, we protect ourselves with pure thoughts and create good vibrations, like Baba said. And so Baba explained that look at everybody's speciality while being, that will help. And I thought that was a good explanation by Baba, of course, rather than the scripture saying even the gods were violent and the misuse of Swadashan Chakra.
Okay, so we've got lots to get practicing with. So thank you to those of you who were able to join us here live. Always great to have you here. Great to connect, and thanks for your sharings. And also warm greetings to those of you joining later on through YouTube. We think of all of you also. So have a great week, everyone, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next time. Nam Shanti, Nam Shanti,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Shanti, thank you, Shanti.